Hey guys, Arleesha here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to hang out in my sketchbook, play with some gouache, paint some mushrooms, and the palette I'm going to be using today is one that I've actually had for a long time. The first time I wanted to set up a palette with gouache paint, this was it. So the setup is kind of weird and kind of piecemealed together with paints from Holbein and some from M. Graham. It's a little bit of a redundant palette and it's not optimized very well. As you can see, I have the wells of the actual palette and then I put some half pans in there as well because I wanted some other colors, but some of the colors are basically duplicates but from a different brand. So the ones up in the wells up top are from Holbein and most of the ones in the half pans lower are from M. Graham. And originally my intention was to just test out paint from a couple different brands, but then I never actually changed it or updated it, and I've just been using the paint this way for a long time. So not all of these colors need to be here, but they are. And I'm using this gouache reactivated. I sprayed it down and actually ended up letting it sit for 10 to 15 to 20-ish minutes before I used it, just because it took me some time to set up and get everything ready to go. So, you know, if I'm going to use reactivated gouache, I always want to give it time and let it sit for a little bit before using it. And that's the easiest way to get as close to fresh gouache as I can with reactivated paint, which is still really nice. And it kind of leads into what I want to talk to you about today, which is why professional gouache is such a special thing. The whole reason I'm even talking about this in the first place is I've just been thinking a lot about how there are so many affordable options out there between like the Mia Himi gouache set and Arteza and different companies that are making more affordable products, not just in gouache, but in watercolors and acrylics and all kinds of things. And there are just so many options out there these days for more affordable paint, and gouache is definitely part of that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the other side of that and what it is that makes higher quality professional artist grade paint still a really special thing. That's not to say that, you know, the more affordable options aren't great, especially for learning and practicing and playing in your sketchbook, but there is still something kind of unmatched in a real good high quality paint, and I wanted to talk to you about that today. I think there are two primary things that set very high quality paint apart from something that is more affordable, even if it's still fun and usable and good. And first is something that's very unique to gouache, and that's that matte velvety finish of gouache. There's something very graphic and just very bold about a high quality gouache, and part of that has to do with this almost magical finish that gouache has, especially when the paint is applied really thickly and you get these beautiful layers. It's just almost mesmerizing to look at. When you're working with high quality gouache, that doesn't happen as much with cheaper paints, I've noticed. Even if the finish is nice, and even sometimes if it dries flat, it's lacking that luster, that, you know, that velvety thing. I know there should be other words to use to describe that, but that's the best one I can think of. And I think that's something really unique to high quality gouache. So it's fun to get to mix things up. And of course, I use my cheaper gouache pretty much all the time. But when I'm looking for a more luxurious experience, I'm really grateful that I have this higher quality paint. And I've had all of these tubes for a really, really long time, which leads into the second thing about professional gouache that I really like. And all of this is kind of just my musings and reflections as I was working on these paintings. And before we get into the second one, the real-time versions for both of these paintings will be up on Patreon for the Art Insights tier, and I will be chatting with my patrons and talking about, to be honest, really, really random stuff you know, how I'm doing, what I'm working on, what's going on, my life. That's the kind of stuff that I talk about in the real-time videos, and I also answer any questions that my patrons have. So the real-time video for this first mushroom is up now, and the second one will be up probably next week. And the second reason that I really like and appreciate professional gouache does go along with the first, and that is the richness and cleanness of the colors and just the high pigmentation of professional quality paint. And this applies not only to gouache but also to, you know, watercolors, acrylics, anything like that. You have a higher density of pigment and the colors are just so vibrant. Colors can be really nice in cheaper sets too, that when you combine that effect with a really dense, rich pigment load, you're basically getting magic in a tube. It just makes working with these paints an extremely enjoyable experience, even when my layers aren't necessarily super consistent and I'm just playing around in my sketchbook and not really necessarily looking to do something super refined or super finished, you know, and I'm just having fun. I may end up using these paintings as part of the Patreon sticker sheet for March. We'll see. I haven't completely decided yet how I'm going to approach that, but I do really like these a lot, and working with higher quality paints is just super fun and very, very enjoyable. So not only are the colors nicely pigmented and you just get a lot of richness, which makes the paints last longer. So, you know, these paints that are in these half pans, I replaced the one yellow because it got super dirty from the green that kind of flakes off. So even professional quality gouache isn't, you know, immune from, you know, the crumbling and the flaking that happens, especially when it dries in a palette. And that is something specifically that I've noticed more with Holbein than with M-Gram. M-Gram tends to stick together a little bit better, but my Holbein paints tend to crack a little bit more. And these have been in this palette so long and reactivated and dried and reactivated that they sit together a little bit more. But that one green, I think it might even be maybe a phthalo green, that one crumbles more, and when it gets in other colors and then gets wet, it makes a big mess. So anyway, I did replace that one yellow. What was I talking about? Something about color, vibrancy, super saturated. Yeah, these paints have been lasting me a long time. They've been in there for a while, but also the colors are just very clean. So with professional quality paints, you're going to have more single pigment stuff, and they're just so vibrant and clean and saturated. And the cleanness of a color, it may seem like a redundant thing to say, but a color being clean and a color being saturated aren't necessarily the same thing. Having a color that is just very pure on its own means that it's gonna give you really nice vibrant mixes too. And with lower quality paint, sometimes when you start to mix those colors together, they lose saturation really quickly and they dull down and things can seem muddy really fast. Yeah, I really enjoyed working on these two little mushrooms. I just wanted to do something kind of chill and relaxed today and talk to you guys about why I still really love these paints and why I think that professional quality gouache is still a nice investment if you can do that, and if you know that you like using gouache and you want to have just a fun experience, you know? It's kind of like you can go out and buy a $2 sweater that you'll love and you can use it all the time and wear that thing until it has holes in it. But sometimes you want to buy the $30 sweater. I don't know, I guess $30 still isn't a lot for a sweater, considering the large global sweater, universe. That's not a thing. Anyway, you know what I mean. Sometimes when you want something nicer, this is nice. Okay. this is, wow, what a successful voiceover, right? Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing these little paintings, just something fun and casual for this week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for hanging out with me. Okay, bye-bye.